Good morning. So I'm going to be hopping on here this week to talk a little bit about our journey, really how we got started, why we're in this industry, and then really what kind of prompted us to start this conference. So I don't want to bore you with like the story that everybody knows about how we started our venue, the idea that we had in a Bear Rock Cafe, yada, 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 so on and so forth. That is totally the true story of how we started and what the idea came from, but there was a lot that happened behind the scenes as to why we and how we actually jumped into it, right? It's one thing to have an idea and one thing to say, hey, this looks cool. And it's another thing to actually start finding the financing, getting the plans and all that. So kind of what prompted us to do that. So at the time I was a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher. I think from the moment I started kindergarten and I saw my teacher writing on the blackboard, I was like, that's what I want to do. And I think really what it showed me when I look back on it is that I've always loved leading others. So anyways, I went to school, decided I wanted to be a teacher. In high school, decided I wanted to be a chemistry teacher. So did all the things, student teaching, went into education, and I really loved it. I loved the classroom. I love education. I loved lesson planning, like all the things that teachers say that they love, the actual teaching part of it. What I didn't love was the politics behind it. It was so hard to do your job and to do it well with someone always telling you what you can and cannot do. And really, it was really hard to live a life that felt full because you got paid nothing. And so I was really at this crossroads of, is this how I want to spend my life? And I commend anyone who stays in education because it is the hardest job for the littlest amount of return. But I knew I wanted something more. And so that's really what pushed me to say yes to Courtney's crazy idea of opening a venue and being wedding planners and whatnot, because I could see that there was some financial security in it. And that's exactly how I convinced Sam, my husband, who was going to be such a huge part of this project. I was like, it's financial security. I just kept saying it over and over and over again. It's financial security. It's financial security. And I eventually wore him down and he said yes. And we started the journey to opening our venue. Now, I've said this before, we were not independently wealthy people. So we didn't have a trust fund. We didn't have a wealthy family member. We didn't even have a family that could back us in this venture. So we built this literally on loans. We sold everything that we owned, houses, everything, just to be able to qualify for these loans. We cashed out 401ks, IRAs, anything that we had at the time to make this work. And I don't overly recommend that, but it's the path that we took. And it was okay for that time, right? It was a very different time when we were building the venue. And I say all that to say that, there's this idea of being in the industry. Everyone's like, oh, you're in the industry because you want to help people and you want to produce these beautiful weddings. And, that is your why. And that is a part of it. I think that is what makes the job enjoyable, right? Is being around to watch and witness an amazing day in people's lives, being able to serve others. I'm definitely a very servant-hearted person, and it's one of my love languages is showing up for other people and being there for other people. And so there's definitely that part that felt it fulfilled what I the heart part of the job, right? But the why, why did we get into this? It was really to create that generational wealth. It was to create that financial path forward where I felt like there was no path forward for me because I didn't have generational wealth before me, right? And so I think that when you're looking at your venue and you're looking at, okay, how can I propel it forward? How can I move forward? We have to start thinking about what is the why behind it. And every time I meet a venue owner, they are saying the exact same thing to me. So I wanted to start this masterclass because I wanted to create a community that lifted each other up, that supported one another, but ultimately that we all had the same mindset, the same goal, right? And every single time I talk to an independently owned venue, that mindset and that goal is to create a life that gives them a full life, right? A life that allows them to have that generational wealth, that allows them to have that financial freedom. And I think that's so important to talk about. I think in the industry, we're so afraid to talk about it. Because we're like, oh, it's because I love beautiful events. And like I said, that is great, but really, how can we make our businesses so successful that we're able to have that exit strategy, that we're able to pass it down to our children if we want to, or sell it for an amazing price, whatever the case may be. And that's really, really the heart behind the masterclass. So for the rest of this week, we're going to be talking about our journey. So we heard about kind of the why behind it. And so tomorrow we're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about where we really effed it up. I probably could talk for months about that. Some things that we see in the future, and then really like how we eventually found that true financial footing and was able to kind of take that final sigh and like release. I don't think we ever fully really get to, because there's always a septic system that's going to fail. There's always a marketing thing that I don't know, but for the most part, being able to feel like, okay, like I have my feet under me. I can move with the times. I know how to pivot and whatnot. So stay tuned, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Happy to answer them in the DMs, and happy Monday, everyone.